7, although the clock up there says 2 minutes till, but it is 7, so why don't we get started? And let's do a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. All right, let's see if I can...
You have Paloma on.
I can do a roll call. So here I see Molly, Justice, George, Ren, and Deanne. Is that your name? Okay.
You need to
Is there anyone online? Paloma, are you online?
Hi, yes, I'm online.
Got it. I think the city attorney or one of them is online, or both.
Good evening. No, Nick Ward-Willis, present.
Hey, Nick. And then the city administrator's here. Okay. That's a full house. I guess we're doing a community segment, and it's on Spirit of Beacon Day. And Gwen, are you going to talk to us?
I'll start, yes.
Okay. You have a crowd with you.
Yes. So hopefully everyone can hear me at the right level. Is that good?
Yep.
I just want to come here tonight to give an update from the Spirit of Beacon Day Committee. Is there an echo?
It's over here. He's got to turn it off now.
I'm trying to get rid of the reverb.
Oh, yeah. So I've come with an update from the Spirit of Beacon Committee. I was here a couple of weeks ago, and I asked for the council support to spread the word because we're looking for new volunteers and new leadership for the Spirit of Beacon Committee. And we've had great response since that time. And I want to thank you for the outreach that you've done to your constituents. And also we had a couple of stories in the press, and we've had a very good response. And so I'm happy to announce that the Spirit of Beacon is alive and well, and that many people have stepped up. And not only that, but a chair and a leader has stepped up, Katie Helmuth-Martin. So I am delighted to introduce Katie, and she will introduce the other volunteers that have stepped up. Only a few tonight, but there's many more that have committed to helping. So we have the team in place to lead the event for this upcoming September. And I want to really thank you guys so much for stepping up. And I'm very excited because you guys have already been a great supporter of Spirit of Beacon Day, and you've in the years prior to this event, you have participated and you've supported, and now you're stepping up, and I'm so thrilled and so thankful to you. So, Katie?
Hello. Thank you all for having us here. Gweno, thank you so much for stepping up years ago when the former committee group stepped aside after their many years of service. They passed down a smooth process for you to follow, and you gave us that with enhancements you made to it. Thanks to your leadership, isn't she amazing, Gweno? I'm going to clutch her. The Spirit of Beacon Day has a website, online registration, an Instagram and Facebook account, and Spirit. During the height of the pandemic, you and your committee produced an alternative version of the day to keep the spirit alive with video and car parade, and honestly, that sounded like the hardest job. During that time, when the pandemic blossomed into the racial reawakening that across the United States and even in Beacon, New York, I started covering the protests down Main Street and marched to Memorial Park and Pete and Toshi Seeger Riverfront Park to listen to people's stories during the open mic sessions. As a reporter, I got out of my comfort zone and spoke with neighbors I had never spoken to before, heard their stories, met new people, and heard about their lives in Beacon and reflected. In 2020, when September rolled around, I thought the Spirit of Beacon Day was the perfect time to kaleidoscope all of this, to shine the light on the origins of why the Spirit of Beacon Day was created in 1977. According to the Beacon Centennial, which, by the way, was published by a committee of which Gweno was the chair and several previous Spirit of Beacon Day committee members also served on that publishing committee. The Spirit of Beacon Day started due to racial overtones. I'll read from the Beacon Evening News article from 1986. Nan Whittingham, the backbone of the Spirit of Beacon Day for a good part of its history, recalled how and why the event was initiated and how many community organizations worked together in an attempt to end racial problems in the city. She said that for a number of years, students from Beacon High School and the community were having some problems with racial overtones. It was during the winter and early spring of 1977 that for several days and nights, racial problems became more severe. As a response, several groups met to discuss the cause of the problem and ways to prevent them. It was decided that having everyone get together to know each other was the best way to understand these tensions. That is exactly what Beacon has been doing ever since, now more than ever. For September's 2020, I thought it the perfect opportunity to dive deeply into the origin story of the Spirit of Beacon Day, but we were mandated not to have parades, so the live parade took a 2-year hiatus. But now we're back. After initial talks with this new committee that I'm here with tonight, some of them, we bring you the theme for this year, the 45th year of the Spirit of Beacon, the origin story. Inspired by superhero movies and fairy tale shows that the kids have been watching, our kids are in the back, by the way, we thought it was this workable inspiration for the schools to design their floats or marches around, and for other groups to work this into their offerings as well. When I volunteered to chair the Spirit of Beacon Day, it was important to me to keep these roots alive and nourished. Part of doing that is bringing new people into new opportunities. I am so humbled and excited to introduce to you the committee members. Nakia Allen Smith, right here, is our treasurer, doing business as Millennial Matriarch. She provides services to businesses and nonprofits in setting up their entities and maintaining requirements. She is a homeschooler and now part of Little Water Prep, the first charter school in Dutchess County. She has tapped into Black communities here in Beacon as well as Poughkeepsie. She's a member of the Bethel Missionary Baptist Church in Wappingers Falls. Junior Debashi, as you all know him, is our board member. He is a co-owner of the family-owned business Key Food and produces numerous business events for the communities he is in. He has tapped into the Muslim communities in Beacon and Wappingers Falls. Ali T. Muhammad, who is not here at this moment, is our board member. He is an organizer, advocate, and former city council member for Beacon. He will be doing outreach and coordination for parade and vendor registrations, serving as a liaison with the Beacon Police as we maintain coordination, and will be helping to curate the musical lineup for the day. He has tapped into the Black and Muslim communities in Beacon and Newburgh. Reuben Simmons is not on the board or here this evening. He's coaching at Beacon Hoops, but is serving an important role of helping us as an advisor to the parade coordinator. Reuben works for the Highway Department of the City of Beacon and was formerly its highway superintendent. As for myself, I have been reporting on the Spirit of Beacon Day parade for years, and as a Beacon resident of 12 years, I have been attending the parade. For the last few parades, I volunteered to lead the production of the South Avenue Elementary's float when it was live, and the car version last year. I brought a couple pieces of spirit from our South Avenue production in the back with my kids. This gave me empathy for the parents and teachers who produced these floats. My job involved organizing little kids, an art teacher, and parents, and everyone had a great time. I also organized South Avenue's Trunk or Treat last year with 25 decorated cars for a very fun Halloween night. At the school level, we appreciated the stipend that Gweno's Spirit of Beacon Day Committee afforded for us for the first time to contribute to the float and person decorations. Since the PTA and board budgets are limited, buying things for floats is necessary. Here tonight in the audience might be Brandon Lillard. Not sure if he's here yet. He's serving as a documentarian of this year's production of the Spirit of Beacon Day. He's also a podcaster for I Am Beacon's This Is Beacon, as well as a Little Beacon Blogs podcast, Wait, What Is That? Both podcasts are looking to interview people for their histories and stories of the Spirit of Beacon Day in this community. So please, those who are listening out there, please reach out to us with yours. We want to hear them and record them. Mariah Seeger DeGeer, who's in the audience behind me, is here tonight. She will be one of hopefully many speakers who will open our memories up to life in Beacon throughout the past generations, as known to her through her life, as her grandparents are Pete and Toshi Seeger, and her father worked for the city of Beacon. She just produced a 4th of July chalk-in protest yesterday down at the Riverfront Park, which also celebrated the upcoming Pete Seeger United States stamp that she has been working to release. One of the different things we are doing this year is to continue the lead from the last committee to incorporate the businesses more. When I had a storefront office on Main Street, and when I speak to fellow business owners, I see firsthand that the businesses are on the front lines of dealing with kids of all ages, all of our kids, helping these relationships as their employers, or if kids are buying from them or just hanging out. Our intention is not to commercialize the day, but to speak to the business owners to get their feels on how to be better incorporated. Important to us as a committee is also helping the attendees experience the full mile of Main Street. We hope to do this by having destinations open that aren't normally open, like the Beacon Farmers Market. I believe that in years past, contractually, the Beacon Farmers Market might have had to have been closed. I know I speak for Junior and the rest of the committee to say that we very much would love to have the farmers market open to help the flow of people in that direction of Main Street. Additionally, perhaps something on the other side of the other end of Main Street, the east end, near the mountain, would become available as well to help the flow of people go towards that end to experience the culture through food, galleries, and boutiques. We look forward to discussing those ideas with you. Fundraising is vital for us right now. This day takes a minimum of $10,000 to produce, and we have $1,000 in the bank. We are going to open up a GoFundMe, as well as add ways to donate onto the website. We would like to have a cushion so that we are not at the bottom of the bank account at the end of the parade, so that we can be more comfortable and possibly provide stipends to those in need. Volunteer positions will have a sign-up on the website as well, and we will start coordination meetings and a newsletter to keep volunteers in the loop. Everyone can stay in touch with the Spirit of Beacon Day through our website, spiritofbeacon.org, and the Instagram, Spirit of Beacon Day. Thank you so much for accepting our permit application and for the city's help in years past with trash pickup and police presence to help us safely close the streets and keep the people safe. And finally, thank you, City Council, Mayor, Assistant to the Mayor, City Administrator, for all of the work, homework, and presenting that you do. I speak as a person who tunes in every Monday via your live YouTube stream. I value the live cast, so thank you for working out how to keep it. We are taking our crews, our kids, home after this, but once I get them settled in with more snacks, I'll be turning back into the live stream. Have a great evening, and thank you.
I'm just going to clap for y'all. Yeah. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Next item is public comment. So, as you know, it's up to 3 minutes, and any topic except that of a public hearing. We have 2 public hearings tonight. One is on the capital program for the city, and the other is on a local law regarding stop signs and such, so various signals. And if you have comments on those, just wait for the public hearings, and otherwise, you're welcome to come speak. There's one signed up, Mark Rowland.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Hope everybody had a good 4th of July. I'm here to talk about the decommissioned prison property. This property consists of about 39 acres with 22 buildings and situated up past the Beacon High School on Matawan Road. The site was decommissioned as a prison in 2013, and the first plan for the site was awarded to the Doe Fund in 2015. It fell apart in 2017, partly due to political pressure. More requests were issued by the state. It has now been over 3 years since the Empire State Development Corporation accepted a proposal by Urban Green Equities. The current Urban Green plan involves a hotel, an indoor track and field venue, and an indoor velodrome, all surrounded by bike trails and farm acreage. Exactly a year ago, I wrote a column in the Beacon Free Press, that was June 23rd, 2021, about the status of this project. Eric Anderson, the owner of Urban Green, told me he could not discuss it. Nobody else has answers either. Even if Anderson had a track record showing he was capable of developing a project of this scope, which he most certainly does not, the plan was always pie in the sky, and it grows more so every day. Now, a year later, with exactly 0 public news, it's time to stop relying on outside developers and reclaim some of Beacon for its citizens. When we wanted a highway garage, we found a way to grab 5 acres of this property for $1. Then we spent $10 million building a garage in record time. At this point, the City Council needs to tell the state that we are taking over the remaining portion of the former prison property. Rather than stockpiling more stores for our out-of-town visitors or waiting for yet another request for proposal from the state to be awarded to yet another outside developer stepping in to tell us what they will do, we need to do it ourselves together. We need to create space to grow food and make things, create alternative career paths for our kids, and build some resilience into our economy that does not rely exclusively on out-of-town visitors. We should make immediate arrangements to have Common Ground Farm as a long-term tenant so they can begin rehabilitating the soil. We should put together a board to manage the selection process for other qualified local businesses that would apply for space in one of the 22 buildings on the site. We could have our grant writers seek grants. We should immediately apply for the $6 million that was set aside when the prison closed to help repurpose the land. This can be held in an escrow account and managed by the city administrator and the board. It's coming up on 10 years since the prison closed, and a group of citizens tried to get a plan like this enacted. We had the school district, Common Ground Farm,
15 seconds.
and a number of small businesses and nonprofits on board. But without the city backing us, there was no way to get the state to take our proposal seriously. Meanwhile, the buildings are unmaintained and the ground is fallow to this day. It's a ridiculous situation that needs to be rectified now. We've made plenty of mistakes with our commonly held property in the past 20 years. If we do this right for the people that live here, we can make up for all of that and then some. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else out in the public, in the physical arena, want to have a public comment? This is your opportunity. Come on up, say who you are and where you live.
Sure. It's Clark Edmond, 2 Wilson Street. I'd like to go back a few weeks in time, being the fact that the capital budget's on. I'm not going to talk about the capital budget, but except to say that I'm really horrified at the idea that there were 2 bidders on the dam project. It is totally incomprehensible how a bid could be given out for over $2 million, and I just don't know that the council really understood that there was adequate due diligence to pursue the marketplace. Highly specialized, I understand. But 2 bids on a $2 million plus project, it strikes fear on the upcoming $10 million project. You know, $300,000 trucks and things like that. I mean, are you looking? Are you looking at the original documents? Are you really understanding that there's been due diligence, that there's been enough bids, and that there isn't an opportunity to go back for more bids? Extensive experience in this matter, and I just incomprehensibly think as though construction is so technical and so easily to be taken down the wrong path. And when we look at something like the firehouse, so you have X million in specialized equipment, it just doesn't need to go falling into the general contractor's part of the bid. Specialized equipment is advanced purchase. It's, you know, certain contracts are right in a certain way to protect the equipment, to make sure it's in place or properly not broken in the meantime of storage, whatever. But there really doesn't seem to be any real substantive plowing into these very large expenditures, which really can eat up the capital plan beyond understanding. And I'm not talking about capital plan, but what I am talking about is construction management. I'm talking about project management. I'm talking about the city sinking its head into, the members of the council sinking its head into, does anyone have an explanation why there was only 2 other than the technical project and it was small? Well, where did you advertise? Did you advertise an engineering record and all the other kinds of places where projects go? So I don't know that you did or didn't, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions. But as you go into the capital budget, I think you should. And again, we're not talking about capital budget per se, but when big money is at stake, there should be a second set of eyes within the city government that kind of says, okay, we're really good, and then let the council members individually know what due diligence has been performed.
Thank you. Anyone else in the physical public? Okay, hearing none. Ben, we got anyone online wants to do?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're on a phone, you can press *9. If you're watching on YouTube, you will need to join the Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. Mayor, we currently have one hand raised, and that is Teresa Kraft.
Okay.
Sorry I couldn't be there tonight, and I was happy to see a full house. I just want to say, woo woo, that's the spirit. Thanks to everyone who stepped up to keep the spirit of Beacon alive. And a big thanks to the committee who continued the annual reading of the Declaration of Independence. And tonight, Mark Rowland hit the nail on the head with the women's prison. Let's get this back into the city's hands and make it work for the residents. Everything he said about making it work is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, there are no further attendees on Zoom right now.
Okay. So let's go to public hearings. We've got two. One is regarding the capital program. I'll look for a motion and a second to open public hearing on the 5-year capital program.
Motion to open the hearing on the capital program.
Second.
All right. So that was Molly and Ren. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep. So it's open.
Aye.
Anyone have any comments? Does someone want to summarize what's the capital program?
I've asked our finance director, Susan Tucker, to come this evening to give a little bit of an overview of the financing plan that was added to this, and she'll explain that. And then if you have any questions before we open the public comment part of the hearing, she can answer those.
So first off, there was a couple changes from the original presentation of the 2023 to 2027 capital plan. One, we removed 2 items because the grants for those 2 items weren't going to materialize, and that was the Veterans Place Pocket Park for $450,000 and the Bridge Street Bridge Greenway Connector for $80,000. We did add in the milling and paving of various roads that we pay through with CHIPS. We put $400,000 in for each year because that is about how much we spend on milling and paving each year. The last thing that we did was we had the Firehouse Renovation spread out on 2 years. One was in 2023 was the design, and that was for $760,000, and the construction in 2024 of $9.7 million. We've combined those 2 into 2023 because it's moving forward a little bit quicker than we anticipated with the design phase, and we think that we'll be able to break ground in 2023. And I'd like to have all the authorizations in place in order to do that. So we decided to put that into 1 year. That was the only changes to the 5-year capital plan. And the funding plan is the other document that I promised we would bring. And this shows how we would fund each one of those 2023 projects. So you have sources like fund balance, which essentially is a savings fund, surpluses from previous years held in the operating funds. So we have that source. We have debt issuance. So we issue bands usually, which are bond anticipation notes or short-term debt. Or we have grant sources. Certain agencies have committed to funding some of these projects. Obviously, we will keep looking for sources of revenue as we go into the projects as well. Sometimes things come up. The last item, or the last column, is the rec trust, and that is from developers putting into our recreation trust fund for infrastructure improvements to the recreation department. So building a park, building fencing, building the actual playgrounds, things like that, we can apply those funds towards that, and we did that in this program. So the first item, we'll just look at the totals of how we planned on funding each program. So the first is general fund balance. What we took is some of the items that have less period of probable usefulness, meaning that there may be a vehicle that is only 5 to 8 years. So we decided to use fund balance to fund those items. And then we decided to put in the serial bond, or the general fund debt, the firehouse renovation of $10 million. The water fund balance, we wanted to use $400, and that would also fund shorter term projects, and $2.9 million for the Melzinga Reservoir rehab construction. Sewer fund balance, we would use, there's only 2 items in the sewer fund in 2023, and we were gonna issue that with fund balance for $390,000. We have $2.5 million from grant sources. We anticipate the entire Fishkill Teller project, or at least 95%, will be funded through federal and state aid. We have potentially another state local source to fund the rest of that. CHIPS, which is Consolidated Highway Improvement Program, will fund all of our milling and paving. And we have a committed grant from Scoofus office for the solar panels on the DPW garage.
That's from Jacobson's office, and it's pending.
Pending.
But very likely. Looking optimistic.
Wrong one. Sorry.
Working on them.
And then we have $30,000 from the Rec Trust for the South Avenue Park bathroom engineering. So this is the plan on how we would fund this 2023 capital plan. It's a big plan, but when you have a big project like the firehouse, it does eat up quite a bit of that total plan. So I feel very comfortable in the fund balance numbers that we use to fund this plan. In the general fund, we have some increased revenues from the sales tax. So we're looking forward to using some of those monies to fund the general fund piece. And the sewer fund, of course, we have the hauler fees, the increased hauler fees. So, and we're, very healthy fund balance. So it's very comfortable using that money to fund this plan.
This might be something you already do, but when we get the operating budget for 2023, I think in the fall, is it possible to get an update on if you have updates at that point, and any of the funding that you mentioned that might be pending, if it's come through at that point?
Yes, and I think as it actually happens, the city administrator will let you know.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So also, when we do present the operating budget, there's usually about 3/4 of the year of the current expenses in there, so you get to see how we're doing each year too. So, but we're never over budget.
Not on her watch.
Not on my watch.
Never on her watch. Under road reconstruction, I just do want to highlight under Fishkill and Teller construction that $1.99 million is not the full cost of the project. In the 2020 capital plan, the prior council authorized $6.93 million. So that project is about a $9 million project to repave and build new sidewalks on both sides of the road for the entire lengths of Teller Avenue and Fishkill Avenue. So it's a much larger project than it looks like here, and I know some people might wonder, how are you going to do that for $2 million?
And actually, we issued some debt in 2011 for that as well to start us. So this project has been a very long-term project. So
everything but this $1.9 million is debt. This is the grant part.
The entire amount is the grant part. So for the amount that had already been authorized, there was only the local share that needed to be paid, 5%. So it's 80% federal, 15% state, and then we had a local of 5% on that first section. For this, we think we have found the 5% through the touring routes.
State touring routes.
We get an allocation, and we may be able to actually backfill some of this, so we we can retire that debt or don't have to go long-term on it.
That's great.
But this is, right now, the Dutchess County Transportation Council is working with us on an amendment to their Transportation Improvement Program plan to backfill the money that we need. So we really appreciate their efforts to help us get this across the finish line.
I like the construction lingo you're using, backfilling, and et cetera.
So, and as we see one-time sources of revenues each year too, we usually set those aside for funding capital plan. Or if we have some additional revenues in 2022 or 2023, we can use that to pay down some of the short-term debt, like that maybe we issue for the firehouse as well. So we don't have to issue a long-term debt for that whole piece too. Well, we will revisit that each year.
And if I could, on our bidding process, we adhere to state law when we do bids. We don't control how many people bid. We put it out on BidNet and the New York State Contract Reporter, which every construction firm of any size monitors all of the time. In fact, when we put the dam project out, it came in $140,000 below the engineer's estimate. So we did well. The company that we got is a quality company, and they gave us a good price. We will be seeking to, try to have as many bidders as possible. So for the firehouse, when we hire a construction management firm, we will, of course, they have networks of contractors that they'll push to bid on the 5 contracts that will go out for the 5 primes.
So, anything else before we seek public input? Okay, let's do that. So anyone has the opportunity to speak on the capital program, this is an opportunity. All right, come on up.
Sure. It's Clark Edmond. Okay, so I'll take the dam discussion at face value that everything was awesome. Let me look at it from a different perspective, from the perspective of the firehouse. I suspect that there's probably $1 to $2 million worth of specialized equipment and installations in terms of the firehouse, specialized. And I don't know that it's possible, okay, to separate out pre-purchase of specialized equipment. But from my perspective, with a construction manager, specialized equipment, you really don't need to fold all that specialized equipment into the 5 portals that we're referring to in state law in terms of bidding. Just a thought, it might be a good way of picking up $500,000, in my opinion. But the issue really is, does it really take $30,000 to engineer a bathroom for a park? I mean, really? I mean, are we talking about U.S. Army hammers here? So, all I'm saying is that it would be far more appealing if the council sat in front of it and had red tie envelopes this high, explaining each project and understanding where the numbers are coming for and why. If he's not doing it, excuse me, the city manager, okay, of course he's doing it. That's his job. But does the council have just a little bit of showmanship to show that you're digesting and understanding these incrementals? And 30,000 is chump change, but Christ almighty, I don't know how you spend $30,000 on a set of bathrooms to engineer them, to have someone tell you where the pipes go in the ground. It's unfair. Perhaps it's unfair. Perhaps I'm picking an easy target. But it's a $17 million plan, and I just got to believe that there ought to be some sense of priorities. And by the way, I don't see one line item in the capital plan for safety, like sidewalks, like Liberty and Stone, which is my neighborhood, for instance. has increased amount of pedestrian traffic and carriages, be it the school or after school or even during the day. The amount of pedestrian traffic, this is a dangerous situation both on Stone and Liberty. And I think the city should, wherever there are sidewalks, forget the one-way bridge, okay, wherever that there's a safety issue at stake, you should at least have the line item safety. Okay, you have a committee. Maybe the committee ought to have a little bit of input into the safety budget. And we need to worry about the carriages, you know, on the streets, and the pedestrians on streets that turn and meander to boot. I have a whole series, a whole catalog of pictures to demonstrate that. But that's not the point. The point is, this is a serious time. It's the most serious time of the year for the council. You have a $17 million on your plate, and you ought to really be intimate with those numbers, because that's why you're there. It's one of the most important things that a council member can do all year long. And I'll be darned if one of you could tell me why it takes $30,000 to engineer a bathroom for a city park that's been the city's possession for 150 years or since 1913. So it's unfair, yes, but on the other hand, I'm just calling you again to shine, to raise to a little higher standard as to how you approach, because this isn't funny money, and we all know that. And I know you're all good people and you want to serve, and I have no problem with that. But I think you should have some technical expertise beyond the city manager to explain to you, you know, what's going on and why. It may be put on a modicum of showmanship to show how you can cut 10% out of the budget just to save the taxpayers a little bit of money.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public physical audience want to make a comment on the capital plan? Anyone online?
Yes, Mayor, you have one hand raised online. That is Teresa Kraft.
Okay.
I agree with what Mr. Getman just said. I want to say I spoke during the initial public hearing. Even with the revisions of deletions and additions, I support the 5-year capital plan, but take a look at it like Clark said. And I still want to see you put a cap on the Firehouse project manager working as a subcontractor for the city. I want an actual number there. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no further hands raised online, Mayor.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
A motion to close the public hearing for the 5-year capital program.
Second.
Molly and George. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? Hearing none. So the second public hearing is for stop signs and prohibited parking signs. So I just need a motion to open that public hearing.
Motion.
George.
Second.
And Dan. All in favor to open it?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Is the chief going to talk to us about it? Or is Chris, or both? Or?
Well, one of the questions that came up was a restriction on Parkin on Cross Street, and the fire chief had requested that that be done. We asked him to attend this evening so he could give a little overview. We also have photos that Ben is going to queue up so that you can see visually how constrained the area is currently. And I think the current law is there's no parking within 30 feet of the intersection. We then proposed, the chief proposed 50 feet. And then in talking with Drew, she noticed that the other side was 65, so we went to 65 on both sides. That may not be the exact answer, but I just want you to know the chief did not ask for 65, he asked for 50.
Okay, and thank you very much. And it is, and I looked at the city code 211-14, no stopping, parking, standing at any intersection 30 feet from the intersection. And with that, as you can see, like the different exhibits up here, we're requesting some different changes. So I took some different times. It was tough to get there when there wasn't vehicles. But Exhibit A is as if you're on West Church Street, looking toward Cross, and it's obvious at Parkin at the intersection that we cannot make the turn, get in with a ladder truck, get in with a 10-wheel highway truck. That day, actually, the garbage truck came by, sanitation workers had to back all the way down on that. So Exhibit B is making the turn, just it's the same as A without moving anything. And then with C, I went down to Cross Street, a view from Cross Street, looking at the turn, you could say. And then D is 30 feet from the intersection, that's the law now, which the vehicles were less than that parked. We still can't make the turn. And then E is actually 60 foot. We can make the turn with the vehicles parked on that. With that, there's some concern. People say, why it's 30, other people have different things. But I looked at, you go through the code, there's many, many streets, from Union Street, South Chestnut, Russell, Roundabout, Main Street, Exeter, even Cross Street already has something in there. There's some 75, 80 feet, 250 feet. Depends on the different intersections that's going on. And with that, even this ladder truck we got is 6 foot shorter than the other one that we had before, which has a better turn radius, this and that. So I think the picture worth 1,000 words up here. It's just not doable to make that. I know it's a shame someone might lose a parking place or have to move up a little more, but we got to think about the safety of our job and sense getting to the scene.
Okay. And just for the public, the signs involved in this proposed local law amendment, there are stop signs on Bank, Kent, and Maple Street. There is speed limit restrictions on Liberty at one spot, on Leonard Street at one spot, and then there is a no parking here to corner on Cross and West Church, which is what we just discussed. And then there's also a parking restriction on East Main from William Street to Pocket Road. So those are the items that we're dealing with. Are we ready to open it up to the public? We good? Okay. Anyone have any comments on those proposed changes? This would be your opportunity to speak. Come on up.
My name is Constantine Doran. I lived on Cross Street, on 17 Cross Street, actually.
If you could speak into the mic, that would help
sorry.
a lot.
Yeah, I live on 17 Cross Street, and I understand the streets in Beacon are narrow, and I'm not really totally opposed, obviously, to helping emergency vehicles get through. But that Exhibit E, that truck, did you take that picture today?
No.
Because that's a commercial truck. It's been parked there overnight and nobody, are commercial vehicles allowed to park on the street overnight? I thought that was not allowed.
I think it might just be wintertime during
I mean,
snow.
he was there yesterday, and I hadn't seen him before, and he's there now. I think he's going to park overnight. So it's kind of odd to see him there. It makes it look tighter because he's a big truck. I very rarely see trucks like that parked there. I was coming from the library tonight, and I turned onto South Cedar, and then I went to Church Street. And believe me, it was a lot more crowded on Church Street. The cars were parked almost at the edge of North Cedar. Went down Church Street, and I saw the stop signs at the end, the T end where Willow is, and the stop signs aren't 65 feet. It's almost exactly the same situation. So if you got to do it on this street, you should try to do it for the rest of the town. So there's some consistency. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else comments on any of the street signs and the various locations? Ben, you want to see if there's anyone online?
Yes, Mayor, we have one hand raised online. That's Teresa Kraft.
Hey there. I just want to say thanks again, Chief Van Vierks, for your dedication to the residents of Beacon and for our safety. I'm glad the city has this willingness to reduce the speed limits on these streets listed, but posting signs is not the perfect fix. Only police enforcement will slow the speeders in these areas. Traffic on Liberty Street is a raceway. They may slow by the school, but they will accelerate and drag over that one-lane bridge by Stone Street. It does not slow them down. Even our delivery men, our mailmen, and everyone else are feeling the lack of safety on this road. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no further hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
So it's Ren and Dan. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, so that ends our public hearing. We may pick these up this evening, or we'll figure that out when we get to them. So those are our public hearings. Let's do reports. Why don't we start? Dan, you want to start up?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll go around the horn.
All right. First thing is I will be having office hours for Ward 4 this month on Saturday, July 16th from 11 to 1. Typically I have it on Sundays. This month I'll have it on Saturday, July 16th from 11 to 1. So I'll be at Trax Coffee House. Feel free to stop by, and hopefully it'll be a nice day to sit outside and have a coffee. I also want to thank everybody in the city who helped make the fireworks show so fantastic the other night. My kids had a great time, and the food was really good. But a word on the unsanctioned fireworks. So the good thing about having, fireworks can be pretty damaging to a lot of people and animals, people with PTSD, people with pets. Know exactly what we're talking about. Last year, my cat died because somebody set off fireworks right outside our house, and they went over our house and scared the cat. So I know very well that this matters. The good thing about having a sanctioned event is that people can plan around it. But when you're setting off fireworks any old time of the day, any time on the weekend, you're potentially doing harm to your neighbors and their loved ones. So please refrain from shooting off fireworks in the future. The last thing I just want to bring up is U-turns on Main Street. I know that we're trying to get more eyes on Main Street from the police department, but I witnessed a really bad one, an SUV trying to do a U-turn, backed everybody up, and cyclists were around, and I just worry about people trying to do these U-turns when so many people use it for bicycling, and it of course makes traffic, backs up traffic for a few blocks if it's a busy time of day. I also heard from a constituent who witnessed the same thing, so we're just wondering if we can get police eyes on this. I know it's something that's unpredictable, but when it happens so often and nobody gets a ticket, it feels like it's allowed. Thanks.
My turn? Yep. Driving and traffic has been on my mind too, especially as we get into summer months, and I just wanted to encourage all of us who live here to drive calmly, keep your speed down, and that's going to help all the cars that are coming through and the increased density that we have throughout the summer. I think human beings can be a little bit testier in the hot weather as well, so be cool on the inside, and that'll help us have a great summer here. I was unfortunately unable to go to the fireworks because my little one is really sensitive to noise. So I also appreciate your comments about she doesn't like how it pops. And so we just cranked up the air conditioner and closed all of the windows, but we could still hear our neighbors' fireworks, and that was distressing for the pets and the children. So I think that's all I had. There was one more thing. I'll come back to it if it's important, but that's all for me now. Thanks, y'all.
George?
Nothing specific to report, but I was wondering, Chris, if we can get an update on the dummy light, which is a constant question I get from most of my constituents.
I'll add it to my report.
Please, thank you. That's all I wanted to find out about.
Justice?
I guess it's me. I want to echo what Dan and Ren said about fireworks and just being considerate towards your neighbors, and then also traffic safety. I really want to encourage people to just be mindful of pedestrians, drive a little more slowly, And yeah, just try to be safe drivers out there as we figure out larger solutions to problems that clearly persist in this community. I'd also like to add, on a separate note, that I will be hosting office hours this month at the Howland Public Library on Monday, July 18th from 2 to 4. Open office hours at the Howland Public Library on 313 Main Street, Beacon. But that is not the only way you can reach me. I have a scheduling app where you can schedule an appointment with me any day that I'm available, whether it's Zoom or phone call or otherwise meeting up to figure out what things are going on. And I'm happy to meet with anyone that has an issue, so please feel free to reach out, but know that I have office hours available too. And I definitely want to thank everybody who has been showing up to events that I've been at or just stopping me on the street to talk to me about what's going on in the city, and people who are emailing me, texting me, finding me on social media and reaching out. You know, I really appreciate the constant communication, and I want to do everything I can to help make Beacon safer and to make this a community where we all can thrive. So thank you.
Brandon, you got one other one?
I forget every week to remind y'all that my office hours you can schedule by emailing me at wlongno@beaconny.org. They are Wednesdays from 10 to 2, but I could be flexible. Thanks.
Okay. Molly?
Well, I feel like I should lead with the fact that my office hours are Friday, July 15th at Pole Hill Park from 4 to 6 p.m. And rain date will be sometime on Saturday, TBD, but I will update the website, or Ben will do that very nicely for me if they need to change to Saturday the next day for rain. I want to thank all the residents around West Church and Cross who took time to talk to me about the traffic issue, and the chief, too, for coming in here and explaining with pictures about the need for taking away some of the parking on the street. And actually, some of the residents who were here, both in their comments over email and here in person in conversations I had, were talking about just the general traffic and parking around that neighborhood, and it made me hope, and I know that this is something we brought up. The Main Street Access Committee brought their report to us, and I know that parking and traffic is one of the things that they were talking about. And actually, I would say for myself, as I was looking at that, I was really orienting around people who come to visit Main Street and not actually our residents who live around that. And so wanting to get the input of those who looked into that about how all those pieces fit together, so we're not just forcing people to park and farther away and affecting our residents as much as we can and want to as a city administration. So that's something, I don't know if we can get it in the fall. I will leave it to Chris and others to figure out when would be a time to really dig into that. But I would love to see it. It's something that I'm sure we'll hear more and more about, not just in Ward 1, but in all the areas that are affected by parking and traffic. Chris might have this on his agenda, but as a reminder that after this week, we actually go to a 2-week schedule with these meetings. So for anyone who is looking at stuff, that you can take a look on our website, and that will have our upcoming meeting agenda. That's our summer to give us all a little bit of break, and hopefully you two who follow along as well. And then lastly, we have a community facility and program launch. So that's something that you might have heard about in previous meetings, looking at a future community center or facilities here. And I bring it up now as something that they're not yet ready to take official volunteers, but there is an email list you can sign up for. I know they're really looking for people to get involved. So if that's something you have energy and interest around that are listening in, you can sign up for that. And it'd be great to get the word out as we start to figure out what we want to do for our community. And I think, Paloma, I'll pass it to you online.
Thank you, Molly. My office hours are normally on the second Sunday. However, I have a family matter that I need to attend to this week, so I'll be announcing an alternative time for my office hours shortly. I also would like to note that I believe this is our first official City Council meeting since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and I would like to point out the New York Civil Liberties Union as a resource for understanding your rights. New York State continues to have safe and legal abortion here, and also has passed legislation to be a sanctuary state for other people who are seeking to have bodily autonomy. I will leave it there. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. I can be brief. First, George, thank you for chairing meetings the last couple of times. You know, I used the word usurpations and despotism and magnanimity with respect to the gavel. Anytime you want it, you're welcome to it.
Thank you.
I used the words usurpation. I don't know if I had magnanimity. I had despotism.
You did.
I did? Yeah, I didn't have consanguinity. Allison had that one. So I had the pleasure of reading half the Declaration of Independence at our annual event here. And it really is a pleasure to do it. It's a pretty amazing document, and it always makes it hard for me to read at times. So I just want to thank those who organized it, and that includes Dennis Pavlock. I know Claire Liu and some others are on that. Ann Thomas, who used to be our city clerk, is one of the organizers as well. So just thank you for doing that. And that's about it. So let's keep going. We've got local laws and resolutions. Do you want to?
I would like to hear Chris's report.
So he's got that Eeyore look.
That was
Sorry,
despotism in action.
There you go.
But I will accept your despotism with magnanimity.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, those words have entered our vocabularies, yeah? Good.
Every day. So I would like to just announce that our pool is open for the summer. It opened on July 2nd and will be open through September 4th. We put into effect a reservation system, so you have to do a reservation online or call our recreation department. The number is 845-765-2470. That's 845-765-2470. That's our main recreation department number. You should also write that down because we are starting some virtual meetings about the Parks and Rec Community Facility and Program report that we're working on, and the first sessions are on Thursday, July 7th. These are just some preliminary ones to give it a test run. If anybody's interested in having input, please call the Recreations Department, and we will be getting that up on our website tomorrow. I think Recreation had a lot to do over the weekend with the fireworks, so we were a little busy. And I do also just want to thank our fire department, our police department, highway, and recreation for just seamless work on the fireworks over the weekend. All of them played a role in that. In response to the dummy light question, we eagerly await the unveiling of the new improved dummy light, which is basically the old dummy light that's kind of fixed up. We would ask people to please stop running their vehicles into it. We understand that someone, again, tried to take it out over the weekend, but just the force of will of this dummy light is not going to give up, and that car was no match for the base of the dummy light. We will be repainting that base. We have a new decorative pole that will be installed, and then the original light fixture has gone out to get a new powder coating and new light fixtures. So we hope to do that in the next month or so, but we have had a little bit of difficulty getting parts. So we'll be putting it back together again, and then hope people stop running into it.
I understand that the city reached out to this woman who's a friend of mine who originally painted it, the
Yes.
current pattern, but it was sort of a renegade thing. She put an orange vest on and just took it upon herself to paint it one afternoon in the middle of the day. I happened to be there. I took a picture of her. That was 10 years ago.
Well,
And then we reached back out to her.
We have deputized and paid that renegade to come and repaint it.
That's great.
And fortunately, she didn't do it before somebody ran their car into it over the weekend. So that is going to be happening.
That's great. Thanks.
Yeah. And thanks to Parks for arranging that again. I think that's all I have. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else before the despot moves on? Okay. First three local laws and resolutions are all about appointments. It's Isabella Nocerino to the position of police assistant, Zachary Ross to the position of motor equipment operator, and Elise LaRocco to the tree advisory committee. Can I get someone to make three motions for those in 3 seconds?
I will make three motions for Isabella Nocerino, for Police Assistant Zachary Ross for Motor Equipment Operator, and Elise LaRocco for the Tree Advisory Committee.
All right, can I get 3 seconds?
A second.
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 So,
Does this work?
So
Are we allowed to do
Molly
this?
made all three motions, and then the seconds were Ren, George, Dan for 88, 89, and 90.
Nick,
we'll-
keep us on the legal edge here.
Well, I was about to interject, Chris, to say each one now needs to be voted and called upon separately.
So we will do that, but I could entertain the motions all at once. Any discussion on those three? Chris, do you want to add any color on them?
I would just say that Isabella Nocerino, her position of police assistant is basically called a dispatcher too. So if you were anyone was wondering what a police assistant is, it's the same as our civilian dispatcher. And then, no, I don't have anything else to add. If there's any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Okay. Any comments or questions on those? Okay.
Just a point of clarification for the dispatcher, for the police assistant role. It is just dispatching police, not other emergency services?
That's correct. So it'll essentially be, we have one civilian dispatcher on the day shift, Dwayne, and Isabella will essentially do exactly what he does, which is deploying police, and she will do it for the evening hours once she's trained.
So let's do them one at a time, if that's okay. So on Isabel Nocerino, all in favor to the appointment, say aye.
Aye.
I would like to abstain.
Okay. And then for Zachary Ross for motor equipment operator, all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstention? Okay, and then finally on Elise LaRocco for the tree advisory committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Okay. So now let's do 91. This one is authorizing the city administrator execute an agreement with Royal Carting. It's an extension of our current trash and recycling pickup. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
So I think I heard Justice and Dan in that order. And Chris, would you like to add anything?
I would just say as background for people listening in that included in taxes or pickup for garbage for residential, for residences, and we do that under a contract that we've had for many years with Royal Carting. I was concerned that if we went back out to bid for this service this year with a CPI that's somewhere between 7 and 10%, we'd take a serious hit. So I worked with Royal Carting to see if they would extend the exact terms of their contract that we've had for the last 3 years for one additional year for 2023, and they agreed to do so.
CPI.
The Consumer Price Index.
Oh.
So essentially, that's the bucket of goods that makes up inflation.
Any comments or discussion? So I will say that this is a good deal given what we're seeing for inflation rates right now, so I think it's the right approach. It's the only comment I've got. And let's take a vote on it. All in favor of giving the authority to the administrator to execute an agreement with Royal, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, next item is a proposed local law to allow members of the city council to participate in meetings via video conference. Can I get a motion in a second so we can explain what it is?
Motion.
Second.
Molly and Justice. Nick, do you want to do the summary?
I do. So this is being previously workshopped and a public hearing held, and the council before it, a resolution to adopt the local law as well as the policy that implements the local law. This is another tool in the council's toolbox, if you will, to allow virtual meetings by no more than a minority of the board. Only 3 members of Ward 1 kind of take advantage of this This is just another opportunity to have virtual meetings, and it's different than other provisions that we've discussed previously.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'm just curious, when does the current state executive order end, the one that gives us an emergency, is that the middle of July?
July 14th, and this local law would expire July of 2024 unless it's further extended by the state.
So wasn't sure I understood that. Is there an executive order and then also a state law, and the executive order is what allows us to do the video meetings right now?
Yeah, so there are actually 3 ways in which you can attend meetings virtually. One is under the current executive order that expires on July 14th that permits this hybrid type meeting set, or all 7 of you attending virtually without allowing the public to appear at your virtual location. There's also the existing open meetings law adopted 20, 30 years ago that says you can meet virtually as long as you provide 72 hours notice and you allow the public to attend at the meeting location which you're attending virtually. The third and most recent amendment to the open meetings law is the one in which you're considering adopting a local law today, and that would allow you to attend virtually on less than 72 hours notice, and the public does not have the right to be at that remote meeting location, but only less than a majority of you can participate in that manner, and it has to be for extraordinary circumstances as defined in your policy. And there will not be a test.
Is that helpful?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Comments, questions? Okay. My only concern is if we all can attend meetings even when we're gone, then we're not really gone. Sometimes I think if I'm on vacation, there's some value in actually skipping a meeting. However, I do think this is a good approach. So.
I like how it doesn't actually say vacation, only says business, so I guess you are, with your discretion,
Oh,
can
is that right?
decide, yes.
Okay, good. Man, that's not a bad thing, actually. You ought to check out when you're on vacation. So, all right, everyone good? We can
Yep.
move forward. All right, so all in favor of adopting local law, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none. Okay, the next one is a local law, and it's regarding water and water meters. Or did
Mayor, I
miss
think you're
something?
out of order.
Oh,
No.
God, I'm too out of order.
Well out of order.
Okay, let me go to item 6. 6 comes after 5, not 8? Okay, let me see if I can stay there. So item 6 is adopting the capital program. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
So that was Ren and Dan. That opens the discussion. Let's talk about it. So I'm pretty comfortable. The changes that I heard Susan go through seemed pretty reasonable, made a lot of sense. That's my only comment.
Is the crime scene truck an electric vehicle?
I'm sorry, Justice, what?
Is the crime scene truck an electric vehicle?
No, it's not. We looked at it, whether that could be an electric vehicle, but right now, the largest truck that's commercially viable is an F-150, and the weight that this tows has to be at least an F-250. So, but please know that every vehicle that comes onto the capital program is vetted for a number of questions. One is, do we really need it? 2, is there a smaller vehicle we use? And 3, can we use an electric or a hybrid vehicle? All of the police vehicles on, all of the patrol and detective vehicles will be hybrid or electric. Yeah. And as they become more commercially viable, like if somebody does come up with a heavier truck, again, we're looking for opportunities to go all electric at some point. I don't know that we get there with things like plows, but certainly with utility trucks and smaller vehicles, we should get there.
And then on Firehouse, having been through how many different studies, George?
Sure.
3. I
At
think
least.
the last one, and I'm estimating, because the cost at that time, if we brought it forward to now, would probably be about double what we're proposing to spend on the renovation of the existing structure. And that includes redoing the parking lot at the same time. So I'm very comfortable with that figure, and I think it's appropriate. You saw with Susan's presentation that we always get a piece of this through our fund balances, and that's just good, smart budgeting and financing. So.
I like too that some of the funds are coming from our additional tax revenue that we've squeezed out of the county.
Oh, the sales tax.
The sales tax,
Yeah.
As well as the hauling fees that Chris was able to squeeze from them. So it's finding spots, and it's nice when it turns into cash for us.
I'd also like to mention that I really appreciate that it's in the 5-year plan to have a recreation center, that it's like out, you're putting it out there. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Well, and we'll figure out what that looks like so we can hone in that number and then figure out a timeline.
No, I recognize it takes time, but I'm glad that it's like present and like clearly we're working on it. And I think that's important, not to just the people who ran here, but to the community as a whole. So.
Thanks.
I also appreciate that we have the funding sources that were shared this last time through. I think that makes a difference both for my own personal learning, but I think also maybe for members of our community to know like what is coming directly from that year's local taxes versus what are grants or other sources of funding or stuff they're already paying for and going towards things that they might not be aware of. So it helps to paint the full picture of how we're supporting our things. So.
Yep, and I think this is the first time we've done a good 5-year look, and I think it's a good it's a really good approach. I was asking for it for a number of years. I'm glad we were able to get to it. And you can see, especially if you're willing to put the lens on of the out years are not known, but you got to put markers out there, and like the marker on some kind of a community center, and especially the big items, you got to figure out how to fit it in, right? And you have to watch for what debt is rolling off to figure out what you can add. But I think we got a lot of running room from the added sources of revenue that George mentioned, and we'll try to figure out how to do it. You'll see me looking to use existing buildings, especially historic structures, but we'll figure it out. Okay, anything else?
I just appreciate your knowledge base. The state touring routes program is not something that, all of us know about, and you have your ear to the ground on those additional funding sources from the state and elsewhere, so it's fantastic.
Thanks.
I also feel very comfortable with the conservative leanings of our finance department. They don't borrow money willy-nilly. It's sound financial decisions that have gone into that. So I really appreciate Susan.
And Susan had locked us in last year before the rates went up. So the last round of bonds that we put out, that was before inflation started hitting, and so we locked in some really great rates in 2021.
That's great.
And she's been able to successfully maintain our very good bond rating, which is a AA2. That's the third best bond rating, and for a city our size, that's really great.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll point out, and you'll see this probably in the budget, is that Susan and Chris will make choices as to short-term versus long-term, and that thing called a BAN, that bond anticipation note, is short-term financing, which is at a low rate because it's short-term. And you use that until you find the right place for the long-term bonding and the right rate. And so you'll probably see a little bit of that right now because rates have popped up until the rates, kind of stabilize. So that's another piece of the puzzle. The other things I'll point out is our fund balance is in a really good position, which is great, which is why we use some each year. Our total borrowing is more than our bond rater wants us to be in. We're a little high, but those two things sort of offset each other. And I heard from Susan that they like the fund balance, and it's a good offset for kind of being at the higher side of our borrowing. So, but generally speaking, it's a really good financial position. I'm very comfortable with this. Okay. We ready?
Yep.
All right, so let's all in favor of adopting the 5-year capital program, say aye.
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 I'll do an aye as well. That's everybody. Great, thank you all. And then now we'll go to item 7, which comes after 6. And this one is on the local law on stop signs, school zones, speed limits, and prohibited parking signs. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Ben, I talked about it at the opening of the public hearing. Did I cover it all right, or would you add something?
I think you covered it well, and the chief as well. I don't have anything to add unless there are questions.
Okay. I had 2 thoughts. One is I just wanted to confirm that the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit was during school hours on Leonard and on Liberty. I just wanted to ask that one question.
Correct. That's a school zone speed limit.
Okay, so that's during school hours then, and not.
I believe it's like 6 a.m. till. I can double check that for you one moment.
Okay. So that's consistent with other school zones. And then the other one is, I wondered if we might want to separate the Cross Street and West Church Street lengths of the no parking to get a little bit more input from the chief and see if we can bring that piece back. And I'm wondering if others would be interested in that.
Sure, I would be, particularly, it might not mean much to those who live there, but if looking at that intersection, like how many parking spots will fit, and then, what actually would work with a fire truck to get that. So maybe it works out, maybe 65, maybe it's 60, maybe whatever the amount to get that, and make sure that the signs are put in. I think that would be good.
So is that a motion?
That is a motion to, what would I be?
To pull out
To pull out that
So
element. Sorry, yes?
Yep.
Yes?
So it's a motion to bifurcate the existing local law to remove section 3 of that law and set it forth in its own existing local law, and to consider tonight, right, that's just the amendment.
All right, bifurcate, that's a good word. So I'm a motion to bifurcate the element of number 7 that is about
Yep, section 3.
Section 3 of number 7, to bifurcate that out of that and vote on that separately, discuss and vote on that in a separate meeting.
Second.
Okay. So all in favor of that proposed amendment to the local law?
Aye.
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 And that's almost as good as usurpation, bifurcate. We can add that to our lexicon. Okay. So
Mayor, I just wanted to clarify, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. is the school hours.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the remaining portion, the unbifurcated portion? Okay, so let's do a vote on that one. All in favor of adopting local law with the exception of section 3, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? And then do we do a motion to table section 3? Nick?
Well, you've bifurcated it and you've adopted that. I don't know that you need to take any further action at this time, because that motion wasn't before you, so I don't see that you need to table it. You're just continuing that discussion.
Okay, so
Future agenda.
Does it need to be noticed and go through another public hearing if we adjust the length?
Chris, I think it depends upon how much we adjust the length.
Okay.
If we were to increase it, we might have to. If we were to shorten it, I don't see the need to do so.
Good.
okay.
I know where they live, so I can also let them know, the residents around there, if we want them to.
Sounded like a vague threat.
It did a bit. Yes, I can inform them if we.
And we'll try to come up with a number that's more precise. Maybe 65, again, can be dialed back a little bit, and then perhaps if we do that in conjunction with marking the parking stalls on the pavement,
Right,
it would
yeah, you're
lead to
talking
more
about that.
efficient use of the available parking space.
Yeah.
And one of the Main Street Improvement Committee's recommendation was to now do marking on the side streets, at least in the first 2 blocks of Main Street. And that's something that is a goal of mine when we can get to it.
Okay, so it sounds like we'll leave it to Ben and Chris to sort out that section 3, and then let Molly know because she knows where they live.
if you want me to ask the residents or get them involved, but if not, that's fine too.
I'm going to
We'll
be
talk
out
about
there
later.
with a tape measure with you, Molly. You're going to hold one end, and I'll hold the other, and Gary will drive the fire truck.
Great.
Okay, now we can go to 8 because that follows 7. And so that's adopting a local law on water services. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Motion.
So I think I heard George and, was it Paloma? or-
Paloma?
Okay. So George and Paloma. And then Chris, will you tell us a little bit more about what's in here?
I would love to, Mayor.
Thank you.
So this is in anticipation of a major project to replace all of the water meter MXUs, which is the device that communicates the water meter reading to our mobile unit that drives around the city getting this. We're going to move to an MXU that feeds that information to a cloud system. So people, including the city and the residents, can look in real time and understand what water usage they're using. In order to be able to do that project, we need to be able to have universal access to go in and do the 15-minute replacement that this takes. So this law sets in motion a penalty if someone won't open to allow this to happen after three notices. And again, those notices will be on city letterhead. They will come from me. We have talked, I think Molly brought up, I forget who brought up, but the idea of having the bilingual was excitedly received by the company, and we'll be doing that. And then we try to work with people. Our goal isn't to penalize people, but you need kind of that stick sometimes if someone doesn't repeatedly make an arrangement to allow us to do that. So this is in concert with a lot of the communities around us. In fact, it's a little less punitive than the ones around us, and it does support the implementation of that project. We'll be bringing you that contract either on July 8th or August 1st. So one of the next 2 meetings, we hope to bring the actual contract to move forward with the project, and this precedes that. And you did a public hearing for this on June 21st, just as a reminder.
Okay, any discussion or comments?
The next steps, if we were to approve this, is the next step then a contract with the company who presented, and then that's when we can figure out the timeline of when they might start sending out the letters to arrange this?
That's correct. The company is Core in Maine. They provide our meters now. They would be doing the upgrades for us.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So this doesn't set anything in motion, but it allows us to take the next step. I wouldn't do the next step absent this.
Right, yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Don't hear it? Okay, so I was jumping the gun on 8 because I was just anxious to get to the ever-important approval of minutes of June 21st. If I could get a motion and a second for that.
Motion.
Second.
Justice and Molly. Any changes, additions, modifications?
Send them over.
Yeah, no, so for resolution number 80 and 81, it says the motions pass 7 to 1 to 1, which would make us a council of 9.
I like that. Some of us count more than once.
Yeah. So I would just like to entertain that they be changed to 5 to 1 to 1.
Good catch.
Which one was
At 80 and 81, we have 7 to 1 to 1, 7 to 1 1.
Oh, wow. Did we let Teresa vote that?
We let Teresa and Clark vote that evening. So we'll take their votes out and make that proper 5 to 1 to 1. Ben, did you note that?
Yep, got it, Chris.
All right.
But, Chris, I would note that the 5 to 1 to 1, the abstentions are counted as a no vote.
Right.
Yes.
So it should be 5 to 2.
We'll discuss that, Nick.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all. All right, second opportunity for public comments. Anyone out there who didn't speak the first time would like to speak now? This is an opportunity, up to 3 minutes. Nope. Anyone out in the ether?
No hands raised on Zoom right now.
Okay. I'm sorry? To speak? Oh, yeah, it is. Sorry. Okay, so that's all we got. I think there is a desire for an executive session on the topic of?
We have it on the topic of litigation and personnel, 2 topics.
Okay, can I get a motion and a second to go into executive session for those topics and then to come out and adjourn immediately?
Motion to go into executive session for litigation and personnel and conduct no public business after.
Okay,
Second that.
so Molly and Dan, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Okay, we'll see you online.
Yep.